Good morning, I'm Ilka Oster.
Morning, I'm Jo Drennan. How do we, as children, create coping skills?
It's an interesting words to put together, coping and skills. And at the Awakened Parent, we really believe that it is a skill. You learn a lot of skills as a child because you had to cope with the world around you. You had to navigate the world around you. And we also believe that they do usually come out of navigating, obviously through the good times, but also mostly through navigating, maybe scary emotions or some trauma or wounding that happened to you, and also not learning how to process emotion. And I'm going to ask Jo about a video that we did, a Facebook Live last year about vulnerability, and the reason that she's very emotional this morning, thank you for sharing all of this, that her daughter Ellen responded to, and had a big impact on Jo. And can you tell us about that?
Yes, I can. My daughter commented on the post, and that she had come to learn a lot from myself and Ilka about how we parent is based on our childhood experiences. And she told a wonderful story of how she would go to her boyfriend's house and be extremely surprised at how kind and caring they were to one another, and how they would hug each other a lot and ask, how you doing, regularly. And this was quite a shock to her. And she even said she made a joke with them when they hugged in the evening. It was like they thought they were never going to see each other, and then they wake up in the morning and they hug again. And obviously she hadn't seen this in her childhood, because as a parent, often I was impatient, cold, distant, didn't validate emotions, didn't know how to do that. I was very logical, and emotions were just something that got in the way.
So it's so interesting. So the logical stuff became your coping skill. So how does this happen? What was good about going into? Tell us a bit about the story of that unfolding.
Well, I think as a young child, I came to know that expressing my emotions, and obviously I didn't. This is me looking back now. I really get it, what happened, and not expressing my emotions and going inside and rarely talking, rarely expressing myself at all. Not even emotions, but words. And when I went to school was wonderful for me, because this thinking, this logic mechanism that I had developed and honed was revered at school. I knew how to please the teachers. I knew how to be silent in class, how to get A's. So then it became even more right to me that this was the way to live life, to remain logical and keep emotions at bay.
Yes. So the ongoing unfolding of this story was that high school and then university. So what's university like for you?
Well, I went to university late in my late 30s, and again I was in my comfort zone. That was brilliant for me. It was me and the books and the assignments and the exams, and getting high distinctions, and easy.
And we talked about this. It was like you knew what to expect.
Yep, expectations were set, and I knew how to get good marks. I knew what was required, knew how to meet the guidelines.
So it's all very certain and safe.
Yes.
Yeah, which is very good for you.
Yes.
And so then you get to studying accounting, and that was at uni, and then you go out into an accounting firm.
Which was a bit of a shock because then I had to deal with people. and my lack of confidence in that area really came to the fore, and I put a great deal of pressure on myself. And but the people in the workplace would often tell me, "Jo, you're the only one here putting pressure on yourself."
Yeah. But you talked about a particular, like going into your supervisor, and he would leave things open-ended. Because I was like, what's the difference between university and the accounting firm?
Yeah.
And you said, so you didn't know what to expect.
Yeah, I wanted to know, like, the task that I was on, what was the expectation of how long it would take me, and but there was nothing was closed off. There was no, oh, well, you just do this and you go on to the next thing. No strict guidelines. So I had to make my own choices.
Yeah. So Ellen talked about how much you changed. You've changed now. And so what happened to make that change?
Well, I think at some point, if you suppress emotions for long enough, I don't believe it's possible to continue to live out your life that way without it showing up in disease, or for me it was extreme loneliness. And I think many people would tell me how independent I was and how strong I was, and like that was revered as well. But the flip side of extreme independence is extreme loneliness. And
in your headedness.
And I can't find much compassion in textbooks,
Yes, we were looking at a blog post of yours yesterday from 4 years ago? Yeah, and I'm like, it'd be good to kind of put a little bit of some of your story in here, Jo, and your emotion, and you're like looking up, and you're like, and you did say to me, it looks, it reads more like a textbook kind of. There was some amazing good research in there, and some great points.
Yeah, written in third person, and not. And this is where this topic came about today, because we looked at that blog post yesterday, and then we had a long conversation about me and my emotions. And I'm crying, and I'm not afraid of it, and that's actually a really, really good thing.
It's awesome.
Yeah.
It's awesome. Yeah. So children will learn coping skills to deal with their environment. What would your advice be to parents, and what do we don't hand out much advice, only based on our own experience, but based on your experience, what would you say?
All emotions are valid.
Yeah.
And if you can, don't take anything personally, and drop any of your, I tried to drop any of my own judgment around anybody else's emotions, and not be responsible for their emotions. And basically, I cleaned up enough of my own emotional baggage from long held, so that I can sit with other people, and they can have whatever emotion they choose, and that's okay.
Yeah, and that's what happens so much more with your children now, and it's not being triggered by other people's emotions, and also I think as an example, they are able to see us as parents. Our kids see us, sit in our emotions, acknowledge our emotions, move through our emotions. That's what they see you able to do now.
They do, and one huge thing was in the lead up to my divorce, my then husband and I sought counselling so that we would know how to go about telling our children, and the counsellor said, okay, best to keep emotion out of it. Like, yay, I can get an A in that. Whoop, whoop. I think if I had have seen her a little more often, she would have come to know me better and recognised that was probably
The easiest thing for you to do.
Yeah, the easiest thing, and perhaps not the best for my children, because I certainly did that. I let them know without emotion, brought them to the table, and it wasn't until a few years later that my oldest daughter mentioned to my sister that one of the most difficult things she found about the divorce was like there was no feeling there. Like it was there was 20 years of marriage, and like it was just discussed and it was over and no emotion around it.
Yeah. I was so happy to hear yesterday that this is a little just popped in for me, that JP Morgan has had 6,000 parents go through a conscious parenting course. And so yay for JP Morgan. So 6,000 of their employees that are parents have gone through that. And of course, the biggest part of that course is that they learn to have this one skill, and that is to acknowledge anything that's coming up for them when perhaps their children are upset or whatever. It's to address go back and do what Jo did for herself, was to address all the wounding that she experienced and go through and process the emotion that is there, so that we can have these different relationships with ourselves first.
Yeah.
And then that is really the only way you're going to be able to sit with your children and not be triggered around, and as you say, keep it non-personal.
Yeah,
So,
and that's what parenting really offered me. The emotions that came up through parenting, which were extremely powerful, gave me an opportunity to look at my own and basically reparent my own inner child while I'm parenting my children.
Yeah, and that's what we do at the Awakened Parent.
Yeah.
And we do have our course starting again on the 30th of September. So if you'd like to join us, then go to our Facebook page, The Awakened Parent, and you can find it in the event section.
Yeah. So thanks so much for joining us. And
thank you. Thank you.
This was a tough one. And we will be putting a link to that blog post below when I get around to writing it with a little more emotion than third person textbook style that I used to do. Yes. So thanks for being with us, and we'll see you again next Wednesday from the gorgeous Mooloolaba Beach.